If you're a high performer and you've ever made up hobbies, and by that I mean when people ask you what your hobby is and you're like, well, my business is, or you say, oh, it's travel or it's reading, then stay tuned because this episode is for you.
Welcome to the Crown Yourself podcast, where together we build your empire and transform your subconscious stories about what's possible for your business, body, and life. I'm your host, Kimberly Spencer, founder of CrownYourself.com, and I'm a master mindset coach, best-selling author, TEDx speaker, known to my clients as a game changer. Each week, you get the conscious leadership strategies you need to help you reign with courage, clarity, and confidence so that you too can make the income and impact you deserve. Imagine this podcast as your royal invitation to step into your full potential and reign in your divine purpose. Your sovereignty starts here, and your reign is now.
Hey there, I am Kimberly Spencer, your high performance coach and subconscious mind miracle whisperer. And I am so excited to be here with you today as we just dive into this belief about hobbies that I have shooken to the core. I've shook it up, I've wiggled it about, and I have twerked it out. And I'm so excited to share with you the breakthroughs that came from a little book about farts. Yes, really. So if you've been following me on Instagram at kimberly.spencer, I have been sharing about a passion project of mine that I finally was just like, this is going to be my hobby. I am going to, in the same year that we produce our book for our Communication Queens agency, the book Make Every Podcast Want You, How to Become So Radically Interesting You'll Barely Keep From Interviewing Yourself. In the same year that we're going to do that, we're also going to do a children's book about farts. And it's a board book, which is totally different than Amazon KDP, print on demand sort of book. There's a whole process that's involved with book formatting and finding illustrators, because I barely draw stick figures, and finding a printer and a printer, not a publisher. So it's been a whole learning curve, but it actually hasn't been hard. And here's why: detachment. And I used to be the type, and I know so many entrepreneurs that are the same, and maybe you're one of them, where when it used to come to hobbies, you'd be like, I don't have time for a hobby. I have children, I have a business, I have a husband, or I have a partner, and I have all of these responsibilities. Who has time for a hobby? And so then when people ask you what your hobby is, you say something that's just a necessary to life thing, like exercise is my hobby, or reading is my hobby. I'm like, well, if you don't exercise your body, then you're not operating at a high performance level. And reading helps operationalize your mind, so you're operating at a higher level. So yeah, that's also not entirely necessarily a hobby. Not saying that it can't be, but let's really look at hobbies. And hobbies are things that can bring you joy. They can bring you absolute joy. They also can bring you money. No one is saying that your hobby cannot bring you money. They can. I think that that's a huge misconception. As a natural entrepreneur, I see a hobby and I'm like, let's monetize it. Let's see how we can do it. So of course a children's board book about farts comes out. But I look at it and I'm like, there are so many hobbies that you can have. And there's my husband used to have sailing as a hobby when we lived in California. Now that's not so much. I definitely, one of my hobbies that I just have enjoyed tapping into and just dipping my toes into a couple new hobbies, like horseback riding and motorcycle riding, and getting my motorcycle license with my husband this year. That's been super fun. But it's these things that add to the quality of your life. And when going for any sort of quantum leap level sort of goal, it requires a quality adjustment rather than just a quantity. So odds are, at the level that you're operating at, you're probably pretty maxed out at the quantity that you're operating at. You are most people operate at, especially high performers, like us high achieving business owners, we're operating at a pretty high quantity of stuff in our life. And so the thought of adding a hobby, who has time for that? And it's very common, especially if you're in a corporate career or you are scaling your business. Hobbies can seem irrelevant. However, I would argue that they are essential, because what hobbies do is it provides a detached area for strategic slacking, where perhaps you get to engage in a different level with a different level of thought, which actually then you can bring back to your business. And no one's saying that you can't apply the same skill set from your business that you have from, let's say, hiring team. I know that's one that I applied in my hobby of creating this children's fart book. It's just a fart. Um, because I had to hire an illustrator and a formatter and a printer. And so I put them through the ropes that I put my regular Queen team through, where I looked at their work. I assessed the quality. I assessed their promptness and their thoroughness of response and the caliber of their questions. And I assessed how quick they were to respond back to my messages and how flexible they were. And being very open and transparent as well that I am a first-time children's book author. Like, this is not my full-time thing. This is just a joy and a pleasure for me. I'm so excited to be able to do this. So, and it's just a hobby of something that I get to produce for my kids and that gets to benefit them as well. So I created a hobby that creates a win-win-win cycle. And hobbies, because it is detached. So yesterday I got to go on the beautiful search for a formatter because I thought, because I'm new at this, and this is the great part about hobbies, is because you are new, so you get to learn new things so that you then get to think in a whole new different way. And because there's no attachment of like, I must be successful at this hobby, like there's always, for me, there's a level of high performance and excellence and mastery involved in anything that I do. But like, I'm fully okay with embracing the fact that I'm a beginner in this space. And so I'm very new, and I tell my illustrator all the time, Amanda Swift, and I'm like, okay, can you just look at this for me? Like, is this what I should be asking the printer? Or is this what I should be? Is there any other questions that you would ask a printer that I should know about? And so I'm constantly asking questions because I'm very okay with being new. What that is doing for me in my business is it is actually allowing me to look through the lens of leader more and asking my team better questions. Like just this past week, I got to ask a phenomenal question of Marie, and my goodness, she gave me the best response of like how we can improve our podcast production process. Loved it. She gave me a full 5-step process. And I said, great, let's implement it. But it was because I was asking better questions. And how did I get to that point? Well, probably from a week of doing CHPC coaching and the training of just being in that training again and being in the space of being directly coached, and also the training of being in a hobby where I'm asking my illustrator tons of questions because I'm new, and I'm asking the printer tons of questions because I'm new. And so sometimes we can get to a space in business where we think we know a lot of things, and I would invite you to have a hobby that you know nothing about, to explore what it's like to ask questions on the new side so that maybe in your business you start asking better questions and leading with more of a collaborative feel than, the authoritarian rule of all the responsibilities on your shoulders and heavy as the head that wears a crown. Instead, allow everybody to have their crown and also have them have their say. Like, for example, when I asked Marie that question, she has her hands on every bit of this podcasting production process. I just record. I just turn on the mic. And she and our editor, they go off and do everything. And so that is essential for me. She has much better feedback as far as how the process can be improved than I do, even though I created the whole dang process in the first place. Like now it's been tweaked and she's worked the process so she can say, okay, actually this part of the process, it worked in theory, but now these are the ones that are actually working in real time. And then we get to tweak that. But that came from playing with a hobby and having more questions and seeing how I was leading and how the responsiveness of how I was leading in our hobby could actually translate into me being a better business owner. So that's one. Number two is that it's going to allow you to think differently. So I was finding this formatter, and then I was kind of just in this space of looking at how do you launch a book? And like, I've never launched a book before. And I was like, okay, well, I guess, my illustrator, Amanda Swift, mentioned doing some book tours and like book reads at libraries. And I was like, well, that's fun. That seems like a lot of time. And it's like, I'm very aware of like time and how can I involve my kids if we're going to do this together. And this is also like their project because we're funneling some of the profits into just specifically being for my kids and also to the kids of the charity of Walk with Sally that charity supports. And so we're looking at like, how can we make this a really fun, enjoyable process and still like sell books? Like I'd like to still make back the investment because it is an investment of building a book. And we were looking at that and I was like, okay, well, what if we did a launch party? And then I was like, oh, had some ideas. And then some new ideas came to play. And then I was like, oh, ooh, this hobby is actually strengthening my genius zone of collaborations. And how could we create a really collaborative, fun party that is a launch party that also supportively advertises for other people's businesses in and around Austin in a fun way that's family friendly, that invites kids to also play with, farty whoopee cushions and get books that are fun. And it allowed me to think differently in a way that I was like, oh, what if I applied that same strategy of reaching out to like some of the bigger podcasters that we're targeting for our Communication Queens agency? Well, what if that's easy? And so it makes everything seem easier because things are fresher. So a hobby that has some sort of learning curve, like when I got my motorcycle license back in March, the lessons that I learned from how to ride a motorcycle to apply to your mindset as far as how you show up on a daily basis for your business, game changer. Like the biggest lesson I learned from riding a motorcycle is the problems that you have currently right now, like you should have dealt with them 15 seconds ago. Like you can't do anything about those. You have to keep looking forward and ahead, turning into the farthest part of your curve. So when you're riding a motorcycle, you don't just want to look at like the middle of the curve or look like 10 seconds in front of you. When you're riding a motorcycle and you're going into a curve, you actually want to look beyond the curve. So you're looking at where you're going to actually end up and you're seeing yourself ending up there. It is the best training physically for mental manifestation of getting you to that place. And everybody I saw who fell, they were the ones who were not practicing this. And I'm very grateful that I have stayed on successfully on a motorcycle on multiple occasions. Everyone who successfully made their turns, that principle of you look through the curve, you look beyond the curve, and you look to like the destination in the curve beyond where you want to go so that the curve is already done. I was like, that's the whole principle of manifestation in the first place. That's how you create what you want in any area of life. You have to look to where you want to be. So the motorcycle riding was a physical embodiment of a lesson that was a personal development lesson. And yeah, I've scribbled that lesson like 15 times, maybe probably 100 times on different notebooks over the years at different courses and seminars and trainings and certifications. But on a motorcycle, where literally your life is at stake if you don't make it, depending upon the speed of whatever curve you're hitting, that was a game changer of just perception. And so when you can recognize, okay, these hobbies, that it's not just like some little fun cutesy thing. It's because how you do everything is how you do anything. And so the lessons that you're learning in personal development and self-improvement are actually easier applied, and in business development are actually easier applied in doing a hobby because there's no attachment to it. You don't have as much deep personal attachment to the success. Like, yes, do I want to make back my investment in the children's fart book? Of course. Yes, do I want it to sell, and do I want it to bless a million readers with just so much joy and so much gaseous goodness? Absolutely. And like, am I deeply attached to that goal? It's like I'd love it to happen, but I'm very neutral about it. There's an energy of neutrality around it where I'm like, all right, it's completely up to divine will. Like, if it takes off, then that's awesome. And if you want to get on the wait list, then definitely click down below and get on the wait list for itsjustafart.com. And you can click on It's Just a Fart or go to itsjustafart.com and you can just sign up there and join the wait list. It's coming out for Christmas. It's going to be gaseous goodness for the whole family around Christmas time, because nothing brings family together like flatulence. So I'm just excited for it to come out and for it to just bring joy and funniness and silliness and to have a really fun launch party. And then to have that launch party be something that's really beneficial and a win-win-win for everyone. And I'm looking at these things that I want to do. And there are many things I'm like, I don't know technically how, but I'm like, okay, it's not up for me to have the how. It's up for me to build the skill set. And that's the thing, is that with any project that stretches you, it's going to generate a new skill set within you. And that creates new neural pathways in your mind. which then create new neural connections in a whole new realm, especially if it's a physical activity. That creates new neural connections that then drive those lessons into a level of embodiment more so than just like surface, like, oh, yes, focus on what you want versus focus on what you want so that you make your turn so that you don't die on a motorcycle. Like, big difference in the level of embodiment and also the level of responsibility required in that principle, right? Because with great power, including money, like money is a form of energy, power is a form of energy. With great power comes great responsibility, and we know that. So the responsibility of the power of a motorcycle and the power of your own life in your hands and the lives of other people on the road, of just being aware of those, like the power of focusing on what you want becomes deeply embodied. It's not just like a nice thing. It's not just like a would like. It's kind of like what I said in my TED Talk of so many people have the would like or they want to or the it would be nice if, but they don't actually decide. Versus like when you're on a motorcycle and you're driving into that turn, you have to decide and choose and also train your brain to focus on where you want to be at the end of that turn so that you land there successfully. That's a decision that needs to be made early on in advance. And the decision, it goes even beyond. It goes to literally the decision that happens when you get on the bike. Because ideally, you want to have a nice, safe ride and get to your destination and have fun getting there. So hobbies allow for a different level of embodiment of different principles. And that's why I'm so in love with having hobbies. I'm not saying go have a bajillion or go find a million, but go find something that stretches you. And like I said, it doesn't mean that they can't make money. Like if it's a children's book or you want to do competitive tennis, like you can win cash prizes for competitive tennis or heck, golf. Like, oh my gosh, there's heaps of cash prizes that come in for like charity golf tournaments and things like that. So there is money that can happen from habits. And I do believe, just like I believe with business, that your skill sets, your time, your value, your work is of value and it deserves to be compensated. And especially if you have, invested into it and you've poured your energy and your life force energy and your creative energy in, you deserve to be compensated for that. It doesn't mean that all hobbies have to receive compensation. The compensation for the hobby of exercise is feeling better throughout the day, is having more energy throughout the day. The compensation, it can be, you can go on and try bodybuilding competitions or beauty queen pageants. I know I've done beauty queen pageants and received money from that hobby because of scholarships and whatnot. Well, I received scholarships. I didn't use the scholarships because I didn't end up going to college, but I still received the money. I just chose to let it go because it wasn't aligned. But there's value in that, and there is value in doing hobbies that stretch you, challenge you, and help you grow a skill set that allow you to then leverage that skill set in another area of life. Like if it wasn't for beauty pageants, I would have still probably questioned my ability to make friends, but I put my friendship making ability and my ability to make connections to the test when I was in Miss Teenage California in my senior year of high school. I actually skipped my senior prom to do this Miss Teenage California pageant. And I set the intention. I was like, I want to win the Miss Congeniality scholarship. And I chose to be engaged with humans. I chose to engage with the girls, to connect with them, and also to not be afraid of saying, like, I would love to be considered. I mean, if you, like, for Miss Congeniality. And I didn't do it from a place of, like, manipulation or trying to be their friend. I was very clear, transparent, friendly, helpful, supportive, like I am. And I also was very clear that, yeah, I wanted to win a scholarship. And I thought that one was the most achievable one for me. And that one was really cool because that kind of validated my ability to make friends. And that hobby of doing beauty pageants, it helped me improve my confidence and my poise. And it aligned me with a group of women that I was like, oh, these women, they like are really pretty. And they also care about fashion. And they also care about helping the planet. And they also achieve really good grades. And they're also really smart and beautiful. I was like, I found my people. And that was back in a time when I was really struggling to be like, is anyone out there like me? Like I wasn't interested in dating. I was very career oriented. I didn't understand like the whole partying scene of going off like and playing with boys and all the things. Like I just wanted to I wanted to succeed. I wanted to achieve and I wanted out of high school. Like, I wanted to go forth and go on my own. I was done with the systems and structures provided for me. So finding a community of women, like that was where I got to see, oh my gosh, this is possible. And like this version of me came through that I was so proud of. And that's the power of hobbies is you get to meet other sides of yourself. Like my husband, when he plays tennis, whew, there is a very sexy, attractive, competitive side that he has that comes out. Like normally he lets me win at a lot of things, but tennis, he would destroy me and I would love it. We're just not going to go there right now. But it was like he has this like edge that comes out because he used to play as a kid, and he was doing tournaments. He was on the US, I think it was the Teen USTA something. He used to play competitively, and he was ranking it in youth tennis in the state of Oklahoma, and that's really freaking good. And so and there's an edge that comes out when he plays, and it's a different side of him. And it's like, ooh, that's a fun flavor to try. Delicious. But that's the power of hobbies. Like when I went motorcycle riding, it's a very different crowd than the one that I'm like normally hang with. But at the same time, it was cool to hang around with a crowd that had different values where they're like, they just want to like ride and be free. And I'm like, oh, you value freedom like entrepreneurs. You just kind of value it in a different way. And you don't need exactly the same things that you think you need as an entrepreneur. It's kind of like that story of the successful CEO who goes to an island and he sees a gentleman and he's fishing and he says, oh, you can franchise this and then you can hire employees and then you can outsource this and then you can do this and then you can finally get to the point where you retire and then you get to live by the beach. And the guy's like, I already do that. I already do that anyway. Like, what do I need the extra money for? So there's the power in seeing the values manifested in different ways. There's power in having multiple conversations and multiple arenas with people who are not necessarily exactly the same as you are. And that's the fun part of hobbies, is that it exposes you to different communities, because so often, especially now with social media and algorithms, like we can get so microscopic and purist on our beliefs and things and our values and who we connect with, where we think everybody thinks exactly the same way that we do, and they don't. And it's actually a skill of psychological adaptability if you're able to be flexible and have agency and like hold your own beliefs, but also like not force other people to hold yours either. And hobbies provide you that perspective. Hobbies allow for you to step into different areas and then see how you can, as we say in NLP, map across skill sets. So mapping across, it's basically where you look, and this is what I do in our high performance consultations, is I look at one area where you've been successful. Maybe it's your family or your relationships or your hobbies even. And then we look at how can we apply this to the different areas that we're struggling with in your business. And the results are phenomenal. And then that way it's your subconscious strategy, not my subconscious strategy that I'm projecting onto you like a lot of coaches do. So many coaches will be like, this is the strategy and here's your main strategy for success, for having a successful business. And, here's your 5-step webinar plan. For not everybody, that's going to work. Like I had a great conversation with one of my clients, Lauren Golan. And when she actually came on board, she was trying to recruit me for an event that she was hosting. And I asked her a few questions and she realized, she's like, oh my gosh, this is not an event for me. Like, this is not actually how I like doing business anyway. And we just started talking and she ended up working with me as her coach because I wasn't projecting on her the way that I thought she should be doing her business. I was showing her what she did well in other areas and reflecting back and seeing how we could apply those strategies that are her own strategies and apply those to the same areas. And that's the power of hobbies, is that you can look at a hobby, like if you're like a yoga practitioner, if your hobby is Pilates, or if your hobby is like anime and, going to the cons and doing all the dress up and all the cosplay and putting together these elaborate costumes, or if your hobby is cooking, and like my husband, he's turning his hobby of cooking into a cooking show called Chow Time. Definitely subscribe below. The link is below. Subscribe. His recipes are amazing. He is my personal chef. Like he's phenomenal. So look at how you can take the hobbies and how can you apply those same skill sets to your life? I mean, I know some extraordinary anime cosplayer kids who, if they just applied the same skill set and attention to detail that they do to their costumes, to their own personal development and mindset work, ah, they would take over the world. It would be amazing. So just know that there is benefit in having hobbies, in stepping outside of your box of your business and exploring other areas so that you can then take the skill sets and learnings and new perceptions, because that's the most powerful, as you know, the new perceptions and insights and breakthroughs that you have from how you do those hobbies that are then embodied. They're no longer something that you're being taught. They're something that you're embodying because you're in the doing and in the experience of them. And then you are taking those, putting them into your business, and watch how your business transforms. You may find it becoming more collaborative, more fun, more enjoyable. You may delegate responsibility. You may decrease attachment. You may actually separate your identity from the success of your business. And that could be the best thing for you. So go get out there, try on some hobbies. If you're like, I don't know what I like, I haven't had a hobby in like forever because my business has been my hobby and all I've been obsessed with was personal development and building funnels. Then take a deep breath and just explore. What are some of your interests? What are some things that you'd love to do? Like maybe it's like fashion. Maybe it's like fashion is definitely a hobby of mine. I really enjoy fashion. Maybe it is hot air ballooning. Maybe it is flying a plane. Maybe it is learning how to skydive. Maybe it's, being a pro laser tagger. Like I just did that the other day. So fun. So fun. Did that with a girlfriend of mine. We took all our kids, two mamas, 4 kids. Crushed it at laser tag. Just crushed it. It was amazing. It was so fun. But that's the exploration of hobbies. And it's a perk of also having children. So sometimes I think it's easier to do when you have kids because they're going to expose you to their things that they like. Like I never would have thought that an idea or a hobby of mine would be going to like rocket science museums and like learning about space and the moon. But that is definitely Declan's jam. And so anything NASA that comes into town, I am all about. And Colton, it's probably going to be climbing. It's probably going to be something involving climbing. So whether that means we're rock climbing somewhere on some surface of something, some big giant rock somewhere, or climbing Mount Kilimanjaro together, I don't know. But I know with that kid, his first sentence was, I climb, and I'm excited to learn. And so I'm excited to explore those hobbies and see what comes through with those. So go out there, find something that interests you. If you don't know what interests you, go explore. Take every weekend for the next 8 weeks and try something different. Evaluate how you feel after. See what was fun, what could be better, what you liked, what you didn't like. And let me tell you, hobbies does not include just going out and eating at restaurants. Like, that's great. I'm glad you like food. We all need food. Same with wine tasting. Wine tasting can be a hobby. It can be a great hobby. Like you can definitely like go for a sommelier certificate and all that. I have a friend who did. But that can be a hobby as well. Just look and explore and see that it's not an avoidance strategy. So go find things that interest you. Go play and bring more fun into your day and into your business and see how you can map across the strategies of your own success. And if you want some support in doing that, then I highly recommend you book a high performance acceleration consult down below. And we will help you ascend to your throne and your sovereignty by helping you map across your subconscious success strategies into the areas where you're currently struggling so that you accelerate and quantum leap in the next 12 months. I am so honored and excited to have served you on this podcast. If you love this podcast, please drop me a note on Instagram at Kimberly.Spencer. I respond to all those messages personally. If you want to hit up my Queen team and be like, hey, you guys are amazing, hit up crownyourself.now and join our Facebook group. Our fast-growing Facebook group at Crown Yourself is growing, and I love it so much. I am so honored to serve you inside of that community. It is a wonderful community of sovereign souls who are just actively creating a body, business, and life that frickin' rules, because that is what you were put on this planet to do, to reign in your divine purpose, to shine in your authentic light as you were created to be. I am so excited to serve you there And we'll see you on the next episode. Until next time, own your throne, mind your business, because your reign is now.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. If what you heard resonated with you, be sure to subscribe and start creating a bigger impact now by sharing this with a friend. Just by doing that one simple act of kindness, you are creating a royal ripple to support more people in their sovereignty. And if you're not already following on social media, connect with me everywhere at crownyourself.now for more inspiration. I am so excited to connect with you in the next episode. And in the meantime, go out there and create a body, business, and life that rules. Because today, you crown yourself.